All right, and we are live. This is the well. Let me greet you. Sorry. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching this. This is the voice and face of Dr. Tolu Olabinton of Living Spring Family Medical Center. Good here in the good city of Mansfield, Texas, where we believe in helping our patients live long and well because we believe the quality of life is just as important as the quantity of life. And I'm excited today to be doing another Facebook Live with the awesome Dr. Megan Melo. Woo-hoo. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we'll be talking about the topic stress eating. Am I? And I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I wanted to shout her out as a fellow family physician, board certified, just like myself. And she's also an obesity medicine certified life coach. And she's also the founder of Healthier for Good PLLC. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but I love what you do, Doc. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. So yeah, as you said, I'm a family medicine, board certified family medicine physician. I'm also board certified in obesity medicine and a certified coach. And right now, primarily I do my coaching skills with physicians and healthcare professionals, really working on issues around burnout, including stress eating, because of course, with the pandemic, many healthcare providers with their increased stress have been turning to food, like so many of us, to cope with the feelings that we have around stress and all the things. And really in my medical practice, it was the thing that got in people's way the most was really, kind of stress and emotional eating when they were trying to work on improving their health. And so I really value the skills that I was able to pick up as a coach to add to, the work that I do with both patients and coaching clients.
Awesome.
And I'm in Seattle, Washington.
Awesome. So she's a multi-talented physician, this one. And my next question was going to be, why do you do what you do? So you do a lot of things. But how did you why did you decide to go into coaching like you did?
Yeah. I have been in practice for about 11 years since residency training. And I really felt like I lacked the skills to be able to help my patients with weight loss in relationship to their health, right? We can talk all day about how we want to look better and, kind of cosmetic reasons for weight loss. But of course, the way that we eat and excess body weight do have an impact on our health. And I just felt like I didn't really have the necessary skills to be able to help people. I could share my lived experience. I could share, kind of the basic knowledge that we get, which is calories in, calories out, which doesn't work very well as a model for people. But I sought the extra training in both the obesity medicine certification, looking for the medical side, as well as the coaching side, really kind of the human skills and, how do we really work on thoughts and feelings in order to be able to improve our habits? So for me, it was really like a coming together of both, sort of the medical side, as well as the coaching tools that really support the behavior change and kind of relearning, if you will, how to feel our feelings, which is something that a lot of adults are really out of tune with these days.
I agree. I agree.
Ourselves included.
I agree. That's why I didn't want to say anything more because, yes, I agree. Yes. Now, what is stress eating?
Yeah.
Like, how would you define that for someone who's watching? What is stress eating?
Yeah. When I think about stress eating, and there's not a formal definition that I'm aware of, but when I think about stress eating, I really think about eating as a way to feel better or to kind of recover from your day. So a classic example of this, one that I've heard from hundreds of people really, is, I get my small children to bed after working all day. And then I hit the cupboards, I hit the freezer, grab the ice cream, and even though you've eaten dinner, you may or may not actually be hungry. You're trying to change the way that you feel. in response usually to stress. And that might be, a feeling of anxiety, overwhelm, irritability, frustration, those kinds of feelings. So some people don't identify with the words emotional eating, such as like, I feel sad and therefore I'm going to have cookies to make myself feel better.
Right.
But they know that idea of like, I've had a terrible day and I'm going to make it better with food.
Now, and this is a tough conversation sometimes to broker with patient, because they tell you about the stressors, they tell you about their work, they tell you how difficult it is, they tell you how complicated the day was, and that's an outlet for them. So if there's a stressor, how do you broker that conversation with the patient that, look, I'm going through stress right now and this helps me? How do you navigate that in discussion?
Yeah. I mean, first, let's just acknowledge that the stress is real, right? The things that are happening in our lives are really happening, and they can be hard. A lot of the time we are trying to avoid them in some way, like resist that they're happening. Like, it shouldn't happen to me that, I'm working this job and my boss is however they are. It shouldn't be happening to me that my kids are always fighting with each other. Like as though we're kind of owed a stress-free existence, which unfortunately is just not true. So let's acknowledge that the stress is real. And if we can acknowledge that and see how we have been feeling like it shouldn't be happening this way, one thing to do is really to start working on those thoughts. Like, is it true that it shouldn't be that way, that you're owed something else? Can we really sort of dig into that? So that's kind of one pathway, right? That is one piece of the work. The other is, in relationship to the eating directly, is usually, we have the emotion going on in our body. We may or may not be super aware of it, right? We're feeling irritable, stressed, bored, something.
Right.
We feel an urge. We feel an urge to eat. And it's almost automatic, right? It's something that often we're not aware of. And we think we have to respond to the urge. The urge feels very important. It feels very critical. It comes from a very old part of the brain that is seeking pleasure, seeking dopamine. It's like, I want some sugar or some salt or, some chips or, whatever it is. It wants the pleasure and it wants it now. And it can feel like it's really screaming at you in your head, that urge. And often when people are dieting, right, when they're trying to lose weight, they are trying all day to resist the urge, to like pretend it's not there.
Okay.
Right, to suppress it, to white knuckle it. But if we just allowed it, if we just acknowledged it and say, yeah, I'm having an urge right now to eat a bunch of chocolate. I'm having an urge, or to drink alcohol or, something. I'm having an urge, and just noticing it and choosing not to take an action, the urge will go away.
Wow.
You could say to yourself, yeah, I have an urge right now to eat ice cream right now. Maybe later. I'm not fighting with it anymore. I'm not pretending it's not there. I'm not pretending I'm a bad person for thinking that. I'm just creating a little space. And it's such a different way to think about it than I think the way we're used to talking about it. Like I should have an urge for broccoli. I don't have an urge for broccoli. I like broccoli, but I never have an urge for it. It's never like a loud message from my brain. But next time you're feeling an urge for, some kind of food, especially a kind of food that really doesn't have a lot of nutritional value, like your real sugary, your real salty, your greasy snacks, the things that it's really easy to overeat. When you have that urge, just to pause. You might even say, like, I'm I'm going to just notice this urge for 5 minutes and see what happens. And a lot of the time, it will just go away. But you're not fighting with it.
Wow. That is powerful. And I'm hoping that for those who watch this on hashtag live, hashtag replay, would take time to really kind of pay attention to what you're saying, because you're emphasizing one. First, you said that we're not owed a stress-free life. And an example would be like, well, kids are, if your kids were not running around making noise, you'd be concerned that they're not developing well as a 3-year-old. If they're just walking around serious, looking mopey, no expression,
sitting calmly on the couch doing nothing, that's weird.
That's so it's children is children, so that's normal. And work is supposed to be, it has some level of stress because it's work and it's supposed to be almost unending. Otherwise, you'd be out of a job. So to recognize that those things come with the blessing that we have is important to handling those stressors or maybe approaching them. So that's very big for me. And I know this is not necessarily for me, but I'm learning. Thank you.
Hey, we all just need to talk about it. Like, let's make it real.
And then you mentioned, you said urges, acknowledge them. Don't fight them. Acknowledge them. You can sit with it a little bit. Okay, yes, I have that craving. Yes, it's there. And they can go away. They can go away. That is so good. That is so good. Thank you. They can go away. They can go away. They're not as important as they appear to be or pressure us to feel like they are. So this is good. Now, my next question to you is this. Some people are wondering, like, well, I don't like talking about this topic because I feel like stress eating is something that comes with, certain types of people. That stress eating, people always assume that that's the problem with people who are maybe overweight or defined as obese. Mm-hmm. So, if someone is saying, how common is stress eating? And am I the only one? What would you say to that?
I mean, I think it's a very common behavior, and you're right. It may or may not result in a weight problem. And, or it may or may not result in a weight problem right now, but maybe later. But when we really are thinking about health, we are seeing increased evidence about how the behaviors matter that may or may not result in, clear problems now. For example, you may have a lifestyle that really increases your risk for high blood pressure, and you may not have high blood pressure right now. Okay. But if you are using a lot of alcohol, if you are smoking, if you're eating a lot of high salt foods, and a lot of processed foods, you are doing behaviors that have a high chance of having an impact on your health later. And so a lot of people will be like, well, yeah, I'm fine right now. I'm getting away with it right now. And then learn later, that there's some health impact of that behavior that, takes a few years to show up, or maybe many years. And then we feel upset. We feel upset that we're no longer getting away with it. Even though we often knew early on, like, yeah, I remember hearing people say that I shouldn't be drinking that much alcohol, or I shouldn't be smoking, or, this thing might happen to me later. So, even without a problem now, the health behaviors you have now at whatever age, whatever state of health, make a difference, right? Your ability to manage stress, your ability to, try and get the right amount of sleep, your ability to not overdo it on food or alcohol or, kind of other substances. They all make an impact.
That is awesome. You answered the next question I was going to ask. And by the way, I'm taking notes in case you guys are wondering what I'm doing. So health behaviors now can affect the future. And that's why it's good to address it, even if it doesn't translate into weight issues now. All right. So my next question to you is this. Realistically speaking, Doc, yes, stress eating is not good. I have to learn to master my urge and acknowledge my urge, and then it go away. I also need to know that the stress-free life is not something that I'm owed. but what are my options realistically? Like, how do I manage stress so eating is not the only option?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of really important things. One pattern that I see a lot in women in particular, especially women with children or, other sort of caregiving responsibilities,
Okay.
is food being the only pleasure, right? Food being the only pleasure outlet all day. So imagine a lot of caregiving for, young children or, adults who need assistance or, a high stress job. And food is really the only comfort that you allow yourself. If that's your pattern and you're told to change your eating, you are looking at a lot, it's kind of like a sentence, like a jail sentence of like, well, now you've just taken away all the good stuff in my life. So before you make a change on your eating, it's important to intentionally add in pleasureful other non-food things into your life so that you have good things in your life, good comforts. And that can be very simple things. It might be that you would enjoy taking a walk early in the morning, that you would enjoy, cuddling with your pet or cuddling with your children and really noticing the pleasant sensations of that. That you would have, regular meetings with friends or, something that you can look forward to that gives you pleasure and joy that is not food. So adding that little and big, taking the chance to notice pleasurable things and intentionally put them in, and then starting to, decrease those, sort of pleasure related eating is the only way to soothe yourself.
Mm. Mm.
So I think that's really important. Getting to be comfortable with the idea of urge as a feeling, and urge as a feeling that, like fear, feels very loud and shouting in your brain, but that it is not actually a threat to you. It is not actually going to endanger you to not give into the urge.
Mm.
Right. And this comes up a lot too with panic, right? A lot of us can feel a lot of sort of existential panic about things that aren't actually dangerous to us. Like, I'm not talking about like there's a car about to hit you, but
Right.
I'm really afraid to, I don't know, ask my boss for a raise. That isn't actually a threat to your health,
Right.
but it can feel very intense and scary. So noticing the difference between, a true life-threatening fear, and a non, is the similar work of recognizing that urge is not actually imperative, but it comes from a very old, deep-seated part of your brain.
Wow. Wow. So we talked about creating options. So when you're stressed, you have food is an option, but other things you could do: a hug, a walk. The things I tell patients I've started to do and enjoy is reading for pleasure, like just reading, not necessarily to, but just to. And then another thing is painting. They're actually adult coloring books that you can do as a way to kind of self-soothe too. So creating other options for yourself.
Yeah. And write it down. We think, oh, I'll just remember it. But, like actually write it down, like, okay, when I'm feeling irritable, how do I take care of myself that's not food? When I'm feeling sad, how do I take care of myself other than food? Have those lists like on your phone or in a journal, somewhere where you can just go to it and be like, oh yeah, a bath would feel really good right now. I'll take a bath.
Wow, this is good. This is good. I hope people really take note of these things because they're very, very instrumental, not just in the small issues, but also in the bigger issues of life. You mentioned something about noticing the difference between a real threat and what an urge is. Just like fear, your throat is up to here, you feel like, oh my goodness, but it's not really life threatening. When you really take time to understand that that's not, and that will go away too, it actually takes away the power from it. So, yes.
Yeah. You don't have to be sort of the victim of those emotions. And it's normal if you feel like you've kind of been victimized by them from whatever has happened in your life, right? There's all sorts of traumas and experiences and stresses that we've all faced.
True.
that have strengthened these signals in us, but we can recognize them, notice them. We can start to decrease their power over us and be able to be, more in control, more in charge of kind of the automatic things our brain wants to tell us. Right? You don't have to be your thoughts. You can notice your thoughts and have much more control over your whole experience of life.
I agree. This has been so good. I'm reflecting, and that's why there's a lot of pauses in my response. And I don't have to be a victim of my emotion, even when it comes to food. And this is something that, of course, I don't expect to happen overnight, but it's in practicing it every day, acknowledging those emotions, and knowing that they can go away, and then finding other outlets for ourselves to self-soothe. Those are very, very important when it comes to handling stress and as it relates to food. This has been so, so good, Dr. Melo. Thank you so, so much. I'm sure people who are going to watch this, because it's Saturday afternoon here, and people are probably up and about. Tomorrow is Father's Day, so some people are probably just getting their stuff together. Maybe not. People are wondering, where can I come reach out to you? How can I reach out to you to come speak, or how can I contact you to become a coach for a group or whatever? How can people reach you, Doc?
Yeah, so people can contact me through my website, which is www.healthierforgood.com. Healthier, HealthierForgood.com. And then that's usually the easiest way to reach me. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Megan Melo, MD.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is, after the live, I will post that information on the links or in the comment section, so people can connect with you. Thank you so much for coming. This has been very, very good. Please share. For those who are watching now, who are watching later, please share. This is very, very useful. And take your time to note the things that have been talked about and practice. They may seem frou-frou and silly, but they actually work, because you are how you think, essentially. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again, Dr. Melo. This was good. I appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. On that note, if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a passionate family physician here in the Texas area, I am she. Have a good one. All right.